I'm coming to you from Central Texas. We're at Bend and Lomita United Methodist Churches, small churches with a big heart. We do a big ministry, staying staunchly United Methodist. We've been talking about the Bible. We've been talking about the themes of the Bible and the books of the Bible. Now we're talking about the stories of the Bible. The last presentation, we did a story about Jacob and Esau and how Jacob conned his brother out of his birthright, and then conned his father into giving him his blessing, and then left town. Got associated with Laban, who had two daughters, and he ended up being conned by Laban, so the con man got conned. But now he's married to Leah and Rachel. It's interesting that Rachel, who he loved the most, had the least number of children, and Leah, who he didn't really care for, had 6 children for him, 6 sons. So that made it kind of an interesting dynamic between sisters. I can't even imagine marrying 2 sisters at the same time. But he's now going to turn the tables on his father-in-law. His father-in-law says, you can have all the spotted sheep. Most sheep were either black or white. But he said, as you're part of the family inheritance, you can have all the spotted sheep, which there weren't very many. Well, Jacob decides that he can do some genetic engineering. He's one of the early ones to breed that into sheep, and he got so that all of them were spotted. And so he took off with, when he was ready to take off, he took off with all the spotted sheep, with the majority of Laban's sheep. But they did something else. He grabbed some heirlooms, some family treasures, and they took them with them also. And Laban decided they were missing, so he went to look for them. Interesting story how the Bible twists and turns. How they hid the treasures when Laban got there was that Rachel sat on them and told her father that she was in her period, and which means that nobody could touch her. And so they couldn't look to see if she was covering up anything where she was sitting. So they got away with the treasure. But Jacob is really not a stalwart kind of guy. He's heading back to Esau and to his family, but he's not really brave. He parks in the wilderness, camps in the wilderness, and sends his wives and his children and his servants all ahead of him, just in case Esau's still mad. And so he ends up by the river by himself, and it says he wrestles with an angel. He wrestles with somebody. We had the idea that it might be a thief that comes in the night to rob him, and he wrestles with him. And then we discover it might be an angel, and then he kind of hints at the fact that it might be God that he's wrestling with. And they wrestle evenly, which makes us think it's an angel rather than God. But he refuses to let go of the angel unless angel gives him a blessing, which he does. But he also touches his hip socket and puts it out of joint. So that explains why Jacob spent the rest of his life with a limp. But he goes back, he heads back towards where his family is. He's kind of wrestled with God. He's wrestled with himself and discovers who he is. God just hasn't left him alone to his own devices. And so he goes, and Esau greets him with a band of warriors, and he thinks he's really in trouble there. But Esau has forgiven him. Esau has shown more grace than Jacob has shown, and forgives him and embraces him, and they are once again restored as brothers. Which is one of the stories that how families can have fights, but how families can be reconciled. It's just like us. We can have fights inside the family. We've had fights with those closest to us, but we need to have, with God's help, be reconciled with one another. So that's the story of Jacob and Esau in 2 parts. Hope you go back and look at the other part, and we'll see you next time.